Dragon left the Marines because he found no justice there. This was recently introduced to the One Piece story. And during the Garp versus the Blackbeard Pirates, of course, with his former pupil, former Admiral Aokiji, alongside the former jailer of Impel Down, these characters who were a part of the world government, he says justice will prevail. And looking at the Admiral's justice, we have to start off with Akainu. His absolute justice be taken from his actions burning Nico Robin's homeland, Ohara, down completely in order to demolish all evil. That was just crazy. You saw the reaction of Aokiji there. That was insanity. Or Aokiji's justice, you see, he used to have a burning justice, and we saw this in his young days when he was trying to be like, how to say this, so eager to, of course, follow in the footsteps of Monkey D. Garp. But after thinking about it for long, his thoughts, and well, he came to settle with lazy justice. And throughout the current story, we see how lazy he is. Like, he just randomly decided, I'm gonna defeat you Straw Hat Pirates after just being friends with them. That's how lazy his justice is. And then, of course, even after Ennie's lobby, like, he was just in his chair, his lawn chair, just chilling while Garp was causing commotion, trying to take out these Straw Hat Pirates. Like, an admiral not helping out is crazy. That's how lazy justice is working. Then, of course, we have Kizaru, who has unclear justice, and perfect example is recently Egghead Island arc, where Saturn wanted him to bypass Sentomaru. Now, him and Sentomaru are really close, so his pride said, no, I'm not going to do it like that. I'm going to do it my own way. I'm going to actually face Sentomaru, then go to Egghead Island to of course defeat Vegapunk inside there. So he said, I'm doing it my own way to the Gorosei. Yo, this is the top of the top when it comes to, there's only one person above the Gorosei, and that's Imu. So that is unclear justice if I ever seen it. And then, of course, we even have the new admirals like Greenbow, who has determined justice. And we saw this in the end of Wano. Like, he believes in subjugation of others and necessary to maintain order. If systematic violence and discrimination are necessary to do so, this type of justice appears to be aligned with the most extreme aspect of absolute justice. That's why he looks up to Akainu, if you've seen throughout the story. And especially in the acknowledgement that the world nobles have natural superiority over humanity. So Greenbow's justice, we saw that highlighted when he was fighting the Red Skybirds, Yamato. And it took recently where Shanks had to pull out the insane haki when he's not even on the island to stop that determined justice. And then, of course, we also have probably my favorite justice, humane justice. This form of justice tends to prioritize the protection of innocent people over the pursuit of criminals. And you guys all know what I'm talking about. It's Fujitora. Fujitora did this so heavily during Dressrosa. This justice is so fitting for Fujitora's moral ideals, caring for innocence and opposing corruption in the government. He bowed down to King Riku. He protected the civilians from rubble. Like, he literally, when Dressrosa, his main objective was to protect civilians, because he could have easily took out Doflamingo and Luffy at that time. He just said, nah, I'm gonna actually try to make sure there's less casualties, and you gotta respect Fujitora for that. And then there's, of course, former Fleet Admiral Sengoku, who has reigning justice. And come on, this justice is fitting for Sengoku. Like, he was the Fleet Admiral in command of the Marines, and which he was known as the resourceful general. Like, he's just a commander. Sengoku, even Wiper had to give him props to Sengoku's commanding during the Marineford War. He is a commander. That's why Sengoku's biggest beef, what we know of, was Shiki back in the days. Shiki had a whole fleet, so you definitely need a resourceful reigning justice for that. And I believe that all these justices, the reason why I'm bringing it up is because we're going to go all the way to Garp's justice. And it talks about how he says justice will prevail, and Dragon said he found no justice in the Marines. I think Garp and Dragon's justice will be found out at the same time. And I think their story is so connected. I think Garp's early days and Dragon's early days as a kid is going to be some of the greatest content that One Piece ever gives us. I think they both are against the Celestial Dragons for a reason. Garp didn't even take the Admiral position. And of course, I think you saw how they both are against Akainu. Garp wanted to kill him after he killed Ace, and I think there's definitely absolute justice, the complete opposite of Dragon, who doesn't even like fighting, guys. His justice has to be one of the most peaceful justices. What he's doing right now is out of character. So I definitely want to say, today's video, the altercation that led to Monkey D. Dragon leaving the Marines, wait to the end when I reveal why he actually left this organization. And I always thought it was interesting when Dragon is first actually introduced. He says, well, he doesn't even say it, but it's a quote in this page where he's introduced. Things cannot be stopped by inherited Things cannot be stopped. An inherited strength of will, one's dreams, the ebbs and flows of the ages. As long as people hunger for freedom, these things will exist. To which Dragon says, a pirate, huh? Not bad. Pretty much saying, I don't mind you being a pirate. But it looks like Dragon definitely didn't want Luffy to become a Marine. And honestly, two things taken here. Like, yeah, he definitely didn't want him to be a Marine. But the second thing is, is quoting Garp's top opposition. Yes, we know Garp and Roger looked at each other as like brothers because they fought so many times, but still, the fact that they're quoting that for Dragon's introduction makes me really think Dragon's father was going against Roger the entire time. Is that more, how to say, is an abstract idea of how Dragon is so against the Marines that even if his own father, the strongest Marine, he's gonna go to the one that no Marine could take out. Roger has to take himself, he had to bring himself in, if you think about it. And then of course later on we see Dragon say, go ahead if that's your way, and Smoker says, why are you helping that guy, and what reason? That's what Dragon says, what reason would I have to get in the way of another man's voyage? This is deep because when you look at it, Smoker resembles Dragon's father throughout the story. If you follow like Smoker and what he's doing, like the following the future pirate king everywhere he goes. When asked to take credit for something in Alabasta, he told him to get out of here, F off, and always telling his superior, like pretty much never listen to his superiors. Garp never listens to his superiors. I know people like the Kobe Garp comparison, but honestly, Smoker actually is more similar to Garp than Kobe, and you kind of deny that. So it's crazy that Dragon is interacting with Smoker, who's so like his father when it comes to his movements. Not personality, no, but the movement, the way they move, it's very similar, guys. And then if you look at when Vice Admiral Garp is first introduced in the story of One Piece, I know he was introduced in the cover story in the anime early, but I'm talking about his actual first chapter. Of course, everyone's shocked. It was Vice Admiral Garp, warship from headquarters, and they're like, Garp, you mean the legendary Marine who cornered the Pirate King Goldie Roger when he was still around? And that intro is like crazy because they're pretty much saying Garp is connected to Goldie Roger. He cannot stop being connected to Goldie Roger. He cornered Goldie Roger so many times. So the fact that Dragon and Garp both introduction has to do with Goldie Roger, the Pirate King, says a lot in my personal opinion. And of course, we later see Garp and how he pretty much pushed Luffy over bottomless cliffs. He threw him into the jungle at night, tied him to a balloon, and sent him flying to the sky. All that was done so he could become a strong man. And I'm just thinking, I know for a fact, if Dragon did this, if Garp did this for Luffy, he definitely did it for Dragon. I think he got the same type of training, maybe even worse, because Garp was actually younger, so and his own son as well. So I think he's gonna be extra hard on Dragon. So I can't wait to see what Oda reveals in this past flashback. And I always thought it was cool how Sanji said, "I think I saw the root of Luffy's endless life force." And Garp said, "I trained you to be a strong Marine. I always said I wanna," and then of course Luffy replies, "I always said I want to be a pirate." And of course Garp says, "Nonsense, you're just under the influence of that red-haired Shanks." And then Luffy says, "He saved my life, don't speak ill of him." And it makes me think, who was Dragon under influence for him not to follow his father's footsteps? And I just think there's only one character. Who was the character who was going strictly against the world government? That was Roxy Zebek, the one that Garp took out with the help of Roger, the Pirate King. And I think God Valley could be a main reason why Dragon left the Marines, but I think there's definitely a reason why Oda's not showing it in the Kuma flashback. There's more that meets the eye, and I ain't quoting Transformers. It was even cool when he said, "By the way, Luffy, I heard you met your father," with a very stern look. It made me think, like, why is Garp being very serious when mentioning Dragon? Obviously, we know there's tension there. And Luffy, of course, replies, "Dad? What do you mean, Dad? I have a dad." Of course, Luffy is so clueless in that aspect. And, of course, that's where Garp is shocked. Oh, he didn't introduce himself. "I heard he saw you at Logtown. Your father's name is Monkey D. Dragon." It says it so casually that he's picking his nose. And I think you're probably going to think, why is LegendMac talking about Garp picking his nose? What is so big about that? Now you're reaching. Well, you have to understand, Garp, I feel like that is a 90% communication is nonverbal. So when he's picking his nose and casually just talking about Monkey D. Dragon, Luffy's father, it makes me think that either he's, how to say this, hiding something, or he's uncomfortable speaking of the world's most wanted man. And I think that Garp and Dragon left off on a bad footing. And I think Garp and Dragon haven't seen each other in over 2 decades. I think they haven't seen each other in years. Honestly, I think Garp and Dragon seeing each other in the current story would be even fun. It would be fun to me to see that, even sometimes more than Luffy and Dragon, because there's actually a relationship between Dragon and Garp. Dragon was in the damn Marines for all I care, like all we know. Luffy and Dragon have never talked to each other once, so I'm kind of more interested in Garp and Dragon reunited. I know people think Garp's dead. No, Garp is still alive, guys. Oda left him alive for a reason after that Blackbeard battle. And it was cool to see the Marines obviously putting 2 and 2 together. And like that means that Dragon is the son of the Vice Admiral, Garp, and of course, it makes me think, like, the fact that they didn't know that Garp and Dragon were connected. Like, Luffy Dragon makes sense, but Garp and Dragon, it makes you think, did Dragon have another name when he was in the Marines? The Marines should know this. This is not rocket science. Or was the world government hiding this Dragon Garp connection like they did Roger's D initial and called him Gold Roger instead of Gold D Roger? Or of course, when it comes to Luffy's recently, they try to hide him being the known as the Sun God Nika, the Gear 5th, his white hair, and of course they also try to hide his initials, so he would have been Monkey Luffy or Monkeyed Luffy. That was just so insane to me. The fact that they're trying to hide Luffy's initial after all these years, the Marines and world government have no shame. And I think one of the most interesting moments, obviously to me, is Garp when he goes to Ace, when he's kidnapped, I mean not kidnapped, but he's captured and impaled down, and he lets him know that he told Luffy who his father was, and Ace replies that it doesn't matter, one way or another, Luffy and I, we both had the blood of infamous criminals running through our veins. There was no way we'd become Marines. And that's interesting because if you think about it, Dragon actually did become a Marine. So we all know that Dragon had the blood of a famous hero, where Luffy has the blood of an infamous criminal in Monkey D. Dragon. I thought that was very cool that Ace, of course, is talking about Goldie Roger and Dragon, how Luffy and him can connect like that because their fathers were the most wanted man. We know Roger's bounty was 5.5 billion berries. We know Dragon bounty has to be in the 5 billion territory. It just makes sense. And this is a good transition, of course, to Monkey D. Dragon. If you've seen it so many times in Chapter 0 and different episodes, Dragon was there during Roger's execution at Logtown. I think Oda did this for a reason. He had Dragon there. He has Roger and Dragon always connected. But it's crazy because I don't think that Dragon inherited Roger's will. I just think that Dragon and Roger, there's something there that obviously connects to Garp, and I think obviously connects to Roxy's Beck, and obviously connects to the God Valley incident. And let's look at Dragon at Ohara when he's seen the remnants of Ohara after the Buster Call, which Akainu and Aokiji, his fellow Marines, or former Marines with their justices, were a big part of. And of course he saw there, and that moment inspired the revolution. He was so upset, and he became a freedom fighter to a revolutionary, and he wanted to start a war with the world government. That says a lot, honestly. And remember when Aokiji wanted to train under Garp, and he was surprisingly mad. He's like, get lost, get out of here. I don't want, I like my freedom. I don't want you training under me. I think the reason why is because he already had his own son train under him for so long. And that no haki punching the ship training, look at Sabo and his claw haki power. His hand and his claw is so strong. I think that Dragon became so strong because of that training that Garp put him through at a young age. Honestly, guys. And we know Kobe went through that training too, and that's why he did that crazy honesty impact, that crazy attack that did damage to a Blackbeard commander's island fruit that was just monstered. You can even see the reaction to his son becoming a revolutionary. Like, Dragon left the Marines a long time ago. He was a freedom fighter and whatnot, but when Dragon actually started the revolutionary army, he went to Aokiji and said, my son became a revolutionary, meaning he was more upset that he's going against the Marines than actually leaving. Makes me think that Garp has some sort of, how to say this, compassion for Dragon leaving, some sort of empathy for leaving. Yeah, because he never talks like, oh, he always says, Ace and Luffy, why don't you become Marines and whatnot? But with Dragon, it's a little bit different. It's like he knows that Dragon at least tried to become a Marine and just couldn't do it. And we saw when he talks about his grandson, he's like, my grandson became a pirate. And of course, Aokiji's like, why are you telling me? I don't care. And now we see Aokiji's working for the Blackbeard Pirates. And Aokiji even said it, you have a habit of raising enemies. And that was a shot to him, honestly, not for Luffy or not for him. I think that was his main first guy he raised that was an enemy. That was Monkey D. Dragon, the worst of enemies to the Marines. And it's like Garp is doing it subconsciously, raising guys who stand up against Marines and bad justices. It's like Garp truly isn't supposed to be a Marine, but he's doing it for a certain reason. And I think we're going to find that in the flashback with the Garp and Dragon. I think the flashback is going to be insane. I want to say one final thing. Remember how Aokiji fought Akainu for 10 days, and it was a clash of their justice, absolute justice. Aokiji could not let that man become Fleet Admiral because he just didn't believe in that justice. Like, that was deep, guys. 10 days, 2 admirals, 2 Logias fighting on Punk Hazard. And then remember Kobe, how he almost died to Akainu during the Marineford War when he did that speech to Akainu, and Akainu was like, okay, this is weak justice, and he was about to kill Kobe. And Shanks said courageous words from Kobe because Kobe stood up to a man who's about to become Fleet Admiral and Akainu and his absolute justice. This is important. These are 2 of Garp's disciples standing up to Akainu. I think you guys know where I'm all heading to this. I think Dragon also fought Akainu's absolute justice when they were very young, and that's why he keeps saying Dragon's son when it comes to Luffy. And I think the difference between Kobe and Aokiji, Kobe got saved by Shanks, Aokiji lost in 10 days. I think that Dragon actually beat Akainu, and that's why Akainu was so salty. And I think that Garp might have even heard about this fight, and that's why we saw Garp even try to kill him after he killed Ace. There's definitely some weird energy between Garp and Akainu because we never really see them interact. And of course, weird energy between Dragon, Garp, and Akainu. I think there's a situation that happened in the Marines in eternal conflict. And I think that altercation was the reason that Dragon actually left the Marines, guys. Wow.